go. Good morning, dear friends. We're welcome to the midweek boost, and if you can just let me know that the sound is good. This is as we come back to this medium. I want to make sure all the systems are go. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube, if you could just shoot me a note on the bottom, a comment, let me know it's working. I'll feel a lot more relaxed. So good morning. It's Wednesday morning in the middle of the week, and boy, do we need a boost. So much coming out of the news, both politically, health-wise with COVID. And I'd like to share the following message. The following message is an experience of two conversations I observed yesterday. One was virtual online. One was in life as well. Thank you. I see somebody put a hands up, so I assume we're doing well. And it reminded me of a story. It reminded me of a story that once, it's actually not a story, but it's a saying. Somebody once asked, what are the first three words you hear when you go into a church? The guy says, what are the first three words you hear? He says, the first three words you hear are, we love you. That's nice. And what are the three first words you hear when you go into a synagogue? That's my seat. And think about that. What are the first three words? What do people identify you when they see you, when they speak to you, and they have a conversation? Is it something of love and warmth, or is it divisiveness and pushing away? Now, that could be two extremes of the spectrum. But somewhere in between, how do you see yourself? And what type of person do you want to become? Now, about that's my seat story. That's my seat line. I actually heard a story where that actually happened. And it's a beautiful story. It connects to a very, very important day on the Chabad calendar. Yesterday was Rosh Chodesh Kislev. It was the first day of the Hebrew month of Kislev. Beautiful month, a month of miracles. We have the month of Hanukkah, many other events. But on the very first day of Rosh Chodesh of this month, in the Chabad calendar, a very special day. Back in 1977, and I spoke about this a number of times, the Rebbe suffered a severe heart attack in the middle of the Simchas Torah celebration. And it was touch and go for a number of times throughout that week, that couple weeks. But then on the month of Rosh Chodesh Kislev, now one important factor was that the Rebbe did not go to the hospital. They brought all the machines and all the treatments that they needed to his study, to his office. That's the way the Rebbe wanted it, and that's the way the doctors agreed to treat this. So he was basically quarantined. Before it was popular to quarantine, he was quarantined in his office for close to 5 weeks, rehabbing himself and getting better. It was on the first day of Kislev, it was the first day of this Hebrew month, that he actually left his quarantine and went back home and started again went back to his normal routine. Now, many Hasidim and many historians and many observers realized that from that day on, the last 15 years of his life, from the time he suffered a severe heart attack, where it was really life and death, the expansion of his work, and I'm not only talking about the opening of thousands of Chabad houses. Now, wherever you go, Lubavitch, there's a Chabad house, there's a presence. But in 1977, although the Rebbe was a world leader, the actual presence of Chabad around the world was around the world, but not to the extent it is now. There weren't thousands of offices back then, maybe hundreds. And it just expanded and exploded since 1977. But also the Rebbe's teachings, the amount of Torah that he taught, the amount of people that he would meet. From 1977 till he passed away in the 90s, there was an incredible growth. So in a sense, the historians and the doctors and Hasidim have observed that heart attack wasn't a setback, but something of a renewed energy that was brought into the Rebbe's work and through the Rebbe's work to the world. Now, one of the main or very important individuals involved in that rehabilitation and treatment of the Rebbe was a cardiologist, a doctor, Dr. Ira Weiss, who lives in Chicago. And yesterday I had the fortune of hearing a Zoom session It wasn't actually a session I was involved with, but a friend of mine invited me to log in and to observe. He was talking to, I believe it was a group in England, and recounting stories. And Dr. Weiss is probably the one that was most critical in the Rebbe's rehab, I guess you would call it, or treatment. Even beyond that time, he continued to be the doctor and treat the Rebbe and his wife until their last days on this physical world. And he has many interesting stories. But to me, one story he shared was a story that I think is an important lesson that we can all have. And he said, how did he didn't come to Chabad in 1977. How did he even find the doctor in Chicago, the Rebbe's in New York, the headquarters of all great medical doctors? Apparently, Dr. Weiss was involved with the Chabad community in Chicago. Let me see, as a comment. Is everything okay? That there was apparently a he was involved in Chabad. He went to Chabad Cheder, when Hebrew school, when he was younger. And how did he end up in Chabad when he was younger? What happened was, when the Rebbe had his heart attack, one of the Rebbe's secretaries had a relationship in Chicago who knew of this Dr. Weiss, and that's how they got in touch with him. But how did this rabbi in Chicago know Dr. Weiss? Because Dr. Weiss was a student of his as a little child in his Chabad school. How did Dr. Weiss end up in the Chabad school? Listen to this story. So he and his mom, or I guess they were not the people of means when he was a child, and his mom took him to shul, to the Orthodox shul down there in Chicago, wherever it was, and the way he describes it, his mom was a little short lady, and she's in the women's section, sitting in the back of the ladies that with big hats, and she couldn't see anything, and she tried to get a seat up front, and apparently she was told that she can't sit there. Those seats belong to people that pay membership, and because of membership, they're able to have the synagogue, and therefore she has to find another seat. The only seat she could find was in the back, in front of the ladies with the big hats, so she couldn't see anything. So she took her son, and they went down the road to the Chabad shul when he was a little kid. And there, of course, in Chabad, we don't tell you that's my seat. In Chabad, we say, we love you. We'll find you a seat. And because of that little interaction when he was a child and his association with Lubavitch, many years later, when the Rebbe was at a critical moment and he needed extraordinary care, cardiological or care for his heart, that connection that started many years later now came back, helped heal the Rebbe, and through that was responsible for all this great expansion. That's a story, a beautiful story, of where a person can tell you, that's my seat, and push you away, or you can bring a person in, make them feel comfortable. In addition to making that person feel comfortable, who knows how that one day can turn around and come and help you. And even if one day you don't see the visible connection of that person actually helping you, but the very fact that you generated that positive energy itself is something that helps you, that gives you strength to go through the day. Let me flip the story. Another incident that I observed yesterday. It was a political conversation between someone who voted for President Trump and someone who voted for President-elect Joe Biden. And they're having this whole political argument, which really, in my opinion, has nothing to do with anything. The only impact that we have in our life is the day you go into the ballot and you vote. All these other arguments and what's going on and positioning and posturing before and after is politics. It's really nothing of substance, at least for the observer, like me and probably you who's watching this. Unless you're a candidate or an official who's in the arena, just observing and just shooting things off of what you heard and what you didn't hear and sound bites is really not impactful. But the only impact that it really has is the negative energy that it generates. And this is both sides of the story. Those who feel they won and those who feel they lost, or those who feel they should have won, or those who feel they should have lost. What positive energy is it generating? Why can't we talk to each other without accusations? Why can't one side understand that there's another opinion that you may not agree with? Why are people still posting things online? And I'm not talking about just people, but even politicians and even newscasters. Well, news people have the money, but why are we just constantly feeding into the divisiveness that exists within us? The energy, the negativity that I observed. And I didn't want to get involved, not because I had nothing to say, because it just was, there's no space in between all that negativity to even say a word. People are hurt and people are happy. That's life. But to understand that the energy that you project, regardless of long-term impact, is just energy that brings you down. As opposed to when you tell someone, here, not that's my seat, but come, let me help you out. That's creating positive energy, the very energy that you need. So this is my message for today. This is the midweek, because I know what's going to happen as things are getting tighter with COVID and as the restrictions are coming in. There's such a high charge of emotion in addition to the elections. Please, whenever you're engaged in a conversation, before it's too late, ask yourself, are you saying that's my seat, or are you saying we love you? Are you making a conscious decision to just prove your point and create more divisiveness? Or are you making a conscious decision to say there's something deeper than my point, and that's positive energy? And if we can all tell ourselves and tell the people around us and tell the politicians that we know that we love, enough. We don't need to be divided more. We need to be promoters of positive energy. And it all starts with me. The way I speak to people, the way I react to people, the energy that I bring into this world. Because it's not about energy that's going to come back and heal me like it did in the beautiful story of the Rebbe. It's energy that is going to uplift me now. And when I'm uplifted and I'm positive, I can do so many great things, and so can you. So my dear friends, be strong. Be strong. Be optimistic. It's hard times. It's challenging times. I know that. Let me just get this thing on. It's challenging times, but try to create and force yourself to be positive. And if you can't, which I understand, try not hard not to feed negativity. Because even by not feeding negativity, we're already a step ahead of the game. Have a great and wonderful day. Have a positive day. Make that choice not to say that's my seat. Make the choice to say, we love you. Have a great day.